When the final verdict echoed through the crystal chamber, no one spoke. Not even the accused. Janira Voss stood alone beneath the prism dome, shackled in translucent restraints that shimmered with containment glyphs. Her voice, once heard across systems as a beacon of peace and understanding between cultures, had been cut short mid-defense. She had stood on this very platform 100 times before, an interpreter of ancient tongues, a scholar of cultural dialectics, a bridge between stars. Now, she was simply another name in the system's ledger of silence. By order of the Galactic Judiciary Council, intoned Arbiter Corvell from his raised dais, his voice as cold as the circuits lining the dome's support beams, Janira Voss, citizen of Gale 3, is found guilty of inciting insurrection, the propagation of unstable dialects, and unauthorized dissemination of classified communications. Sentencing is immediate. Across the viewing galleries, faces flickered in and out of holographic attendants. Delegates. Officials. Opportunists. Not one voice rose in protest. Except one. In the back of the chamber, near a shadowed alcove where the court's lighting failed to reach, a teenage boy lurched forward. His hair was tousled, his tunic crumpled from a sleepless night. His name was Talon. His eyes were wet. "You can't do this," he whispered. Then louder. "You can't do this." No one turned. Not even the guards. Janira did. She looked at him. Even now, her features were calm, a still lake before a storm. Her lips moved. No sound came. "Speak." That one word changed everything. No one remembered the moment Janira Voss was taken from the chamber. At least, not clearly. The official record listed a seamless transition. Silence. Order. The removal of a traitor. But Talon remembered. He remembered the way the guard's gauntlets dug into her arms. The way the containment glyphs flared, scorching blue into her skin. The way her eyes never left his, even as they dragged her away. She did not struggle. She did not scream. She had already told him what to do. Speak. The courtyards outside the judicial complex were vast and white. The kind of white that reflected the sun so fiercely it felt like punishment just to look at it. Talon stood at the steps, breathing raggedly, as the crowd poured out behind him. Some wept. Most did not. The trial had been a spectacle. An execution dressed in protocol. He didn't see Senya roll until she grabbed his wrist. "They were watching you," she said. "They saw the outburst." "Good," Talon replied bitterly. "Let them see." "No," she snapped. "Not good. They'll come for you. They'll silence you next." He turned to her, blinking through the fury behind his tears. Senya Roll, the last independent journalist on Kale 3. A woman his mother had once warned him to avoid. But Janira had always smiled when she said it. "So what do I do?" he asked. Senya glanced around. Drones floated above, scanning faces. "You disappear," she said. "Just long enough to matter." Zura 9 was not a place people went willingly. An orbital station-turned-settlement, drifting just outside the jurisdiction of most colonial codes, it was home to the displaced, the exiled, the forgotten. Which made it perfect. Senya led Talon through the rust-stained corridors of Zura 9, past market stalls made of salvage, past children who didn't speak standard dialect, past guards who looked the other way for the right amount of credits. "You have one advantage," she told him as they walked. "You are Janira Voss's son." That didn't help her. "No," Senya agreed. "But it will help you reach people. People who remember what she stood for. Who miss her voice. You want me to speak?" Senya stopped. Turned. Looked him in the eyes. "No, Talon. You want to speak. Your mother just gave you permission." They found Vintar in a crater-shaped pub that still bore the scars of an engine meltdown from 2 decades ago. The lights flickered. The air tasted like rust. He owes your mother, Senya said. He'll help. Vintar was a broad man, shoulders hunched like he'd been carrying too many secrets for too long. His beard was metal-threaded, and his eyes flickered with old implants. Boy looks too soft, Vintar said as Talon sat across from him. Won't last a week here. He won't have to, Senya replied. Just needs to make one broadcast. Just one, Vintar echoed, chuckling. You know how many voices scream from this station every day? This one will be different, Senya said. He's got Janira's fire. Vintar looked at Talon for a long moment. Then grunted. All right. Let's make the galaxy burn. They worked in secret, in a back room beneath a junkyard. Vintar rigged an old uplink terminal with a black market amplifier. Senya composed a visual overlay, piecing together archived footage of Janira's speeches, moments that had once inspired treaties and ceasefires. Talon recorded his message 23 times before he got it right. He didn't try to sound strong. He didn't mimic his mother's tone. He just spoke. Honestly. Brokenly. My name is Talon Voss, he began. My mother was Janira Voss. They said she spoke too much. That she shared too freely. That her words were dangerous. Maybe they were. Because they made people hope. They made people think. He paused. Breathed. And if that's a crime, then I'm guilty too. The signal hit relay towers by midnight. 5 hours later, it reached the trade lanes. By morning, it had been viewed on over 49 colonies. By the third day, the protests began. Not huge. Not yet. But real. On Remisthal, workers walked off the terraforming rigs. On Parador Station, schoolchildren wore scraps of blue to remember Janira's last robes. On Telex Prime, an artist painted her portrait across a defense wall. And across them all, her son's voice played in loops. My mother gave you words. I'm giving you mine. Don't let them be the last. Talon watched it all unfold from Zura 9, his heart pounding with a strange mixture of fear and purpose. He was no longer just a boy. Not to them. Not to the world that had turned its back on her. He couldn't stop now. He wouldn't. He had found his voice. And the galaxy was starting to listen. Zura 9 didn't sleep. Even in its darkest hours, the orbital slum hummed with life. Stolen power from drifting freighters lit the lower rings. Plasma steam hissed through broken vents. Languages from a dozen planets overlapped into a buzzing static. Inside Vintar's bunker, Talon sat in silence. His message had gone out. More than he ever imagined had seen it. Felt it. Believed it. But now came the weight of that belief. They'll trace the signal soon, Vintar grunted as he flicked through surveillance feeds. The Council has ears on every channel this deep. We've got maybe a day. Senya leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Then we use the day. For what? Talon asked, his voice rough. What else can I say? Senya stepped closer. Truth doesn't echo by accident. It needs fuel. More stories. More voices. You started the fire. Now feed it. Vintar rolled his eyes. You sound like a revolution manual. It's a good one, she shot back. Besides, the boy's not alone anymore. She was right. By morning, they had visitors. The first was a courier girl from Belthane Drift, no older than Talon. She arrived clutching a broken holodisk that had survived 2 system jumps. It held footage of Janira mediating a border dispute between rival farming clans. Her voice calm, her posture unwavering, her words a bomb against war. She saved my village, the girl said. We were about to kill each other. And then, she spoke. Senya copied the footage. Vintar encrypted it. Talon added his voice over the ending. Remember who she was. Not what they told you. The second visitor was less friendly. His name was Enzo Kral, a man wrapped in combat scars and silence. He stepped through Vintar's door with a battered rifle and a haunted look. She once saved my life, he said simply. When my squad was pinned under Vitarian fire, Janira negotiated a ceasefire. Got us out with just one call. She told me peace was worth more than vengeance. Enzo looked at Talon. You've inherited her voice. Now let me teach you how to survive what comes with it. The days that followed blurred. Talon learned how to vanish. How to mask heat signatures. How to speak in coded frequencies. How to run. But more than that, he learned to listen. Senya helped him curate more stories, testimonies from the outer colonies, fragments of Janira's legacy that had been buried under bureaucracy. Each night, they broadcast a new message. A story. A name. A piece of truth. The movement grew. On Cygnar Delta, a shipment of protest banners was intercepted, each one bearing Janira's image with the word "Unbroken" beneath. On Elion Station, power grids were sabotaged to play Talon's voice through emergency channels. And on Kurian 5, where Janira had once lived as a translator for trade ministers, her old home became a shrine. But truth is never quiet for long. Governor Selix, the silver-jawed politician presiding over the galactic mid-sector, made the first move. This child, he announced on Universal Relay, is a threat to order. We mourn Janira's fall, but we will not allow her son to shatter the peace she once upheld. Any who shelter him are traitors. With those words, Talon became the most wanted voice in the quadrant. Senya punched the screen as the speech ended. They're trying to turn her memory into a weapon against him. They always do, Vintar growled. Truth's dangerous when it doesn't wear a uniform. Enzo returned from a scouting run, eyes sharp. They've increased patrols. 3 more surveillance beacons pinged our last signal. We need to move, Senya said. No, Talon replied, standing tall. We need to escalate. He did it the next night. With Vintar's tech, they hacked into a retired relay array still tied into the Central Galactic Archive. Talon's face appeared on every registered datapad, screen, and comlink. They tell you I'm dangerous. That I'm just a child screaming for attention. But I am my mother's son. And I have her words. Images played behind him, Janira at peace summits, laughing with children, standing between armed factions. She gave everything to teach us how to listen. I won't let them erase her with silence. The backlash was immediate. Selix issued a kill-on-sight order. Troops raided sympathizer enclaves. Whole sectors lost their feeds. But for every wall they built, 10 voices shouted over it. In the quiet between broadcasts, Talon would reread old letters from his mother, coded notes written in ancient dialects she'd been teaching him. He thought they were just lessons. He was wrong. If you're reading this, it means they've taken me, one message read. But they cannot take what I've passed to you. The truth is buried in our words. Learn them. Speak them. And never, ever whisper. He began translating them live. Not just the words, but the meanings behind them. Each translation became a broadcast. Each broadcast a rally. Each rally another reason for the regime to fear him. Somewhere in the bowels of penal colony Koravi, Janira Voss awoke to the sound of a melody. Not sung. Not spoken. Broadcast, faint, encrypted, and woven with fragments of a dialect that hadn't been heard aloud in 300 years. Her dialect. Her son's voice. Janira sat up on the narrow bunk, her wrists raw from containment cuffs, her throat dry from days of silence. But her mind? Her mind was on fire. He found it, she whispered. The guards didn't notice at first. A phrase here. A sigil etched in mealtime trays. A hum passed cell to cell. But soon the whispers became rhythms. Rhythms became chants. Chants became orderless, pulsing declarations that filled the prison's dark halls. Janira was doing what she had always done, translating silence into revolution. On the outside, Talon's voice was no longer just a spark, it was wildfire. Protests lit the skies of over 50 colonies. Miners on Volan, too, refused to extract rare plasma without recognition of the Voss Declaration. Students on the moon of Elentha recited Janira's writings before every lecture. Entire marketplaces stopped trading when the Voss signal sounded. The galaxy wasn't just listening now. It was answering. On a broadcast freighter named the Emberline, Talon watched the latest protest footage with his jaw clenched and heart pounding. Senya and Vintar stood behind him, silent. Enzo checked the perimeter, pacing like a shadow. The Voss Declaration, Senya murmured. They're giving it a name now. I didn't write a declaration, Talon said. No, Vintar replied. You lived one. They know who you are, Enzo added. Celix doubled the bounty. They're not trying to discredit you anymore. They're trying to erase you. Then we're close, Senya said. Truth is never more dangerous than when it's about to break through. Across the stars, Governor Celix seated. In the gleaming capital chamber on Ferrison, he paced before a war table lined with tactical feeds. The faces of regional arbiters blinked in and out of holographic presence. We've allowed this farce to spiral unchecked, he said, voice sharp as frost. A boy with a signal is toppling centuries of order. Arbiter Renval, older and wearier than the rest, spoke up. Perhaps it's not the boy, but what we've built that crumbles so easily. Celix silenced him with a glare. Find him. Break his signal. And if that fails, crush what listens to it. At the edge of a shattered moonbelt, Talon translated his mother's final coded letter. This was meant for a day she feared would come, he said, glancing at Senya. A call to awaken something deeper. Something older than any of us. Senya leaned forward. Then read it. Talon began. To speak is to risk. To risk is to live. But to live in silence is death by other name. There are words buried in us that can unravel empires. So let them. Start with this one, free. He tapped the final glyph, a linguistic cipher for freedom, known only to the ancient diplomatic corps Janira once led. It pulsed. In hidden nodes across the stars, sleeper cells stirred. Old allies. Forgotten linguists. Rebel translators. All of them heard the call in their bones. On Kale 3, a woman in exile pulled a page from her journal and began to sing in an outlawed tongue. On the oceanic arcologies of Nereid Prime, a ship's captain wept as the cipher played in her crew's mess. On the high walls of the academy Janira once taught in, a professor erased centuries of censored curriculum and uploaded Talon's declaration instead. Back in her cell, Janira heard the guards panic. It's a security breach, one snapped. No, Janira said calmly. It's a translation. The rebellion didn't come with ships. It came with syllables. And syllables became sound. Sound became speech. Speech became power. On the Emberline, the crew intercepted a data burst from inside Penal Colony Koravi. She's alive, Vintar said, blinking in disbelief. And speaking, Senya added. Talon stared at the waveform, the cadence, the shape of her voice translated through years of signal degradation. We get her out, he said. Enzo nodded. Then let's start a war with words and end it with one act of defiance. Stars burned cold above the citadel of Ferrison. Once a symbol of galactic peace, the sprawling white-spired complex now bristled with turrets and curfews. Inside its central council dome, a summit convened under armed guard. Arbiter Corvell presided in place of Celix, who had vanished from public view after the Voss signal breached the planetary uplink. "We must restore order," Corvell declared. "Even if that means dismantling the voice that calls for revolution." He spoke not just to the gathered officials, but to the 1,000 surveillance drones live feeding to systems across the sector. A show of strength. A declaration of dominance. But outside the citadel walls, the people had come. Not with weapons. With words. Talon stood in a stolen envoy robe, his face hidden beneath a holographic hood. Beside him, Senya carried a signal spike disguised as a merchant staff. Vintar managed the relays from a courier transport above the clouds. Enzo led the diversion crew through the maintenance ducts beneath the dome. They moved like pieces in a puzzle Janira had left behind. "The plan is chaos," Enzo had said. "But if it works, it'll be a symphony," Talon replied. Minutes before the summit's peak address, Vintar overrode the internal relay feed. Every display shimmered. Every guard helmet glitched. Every speaker in the dome hissed, then went quiet. And then her voice played. Janira's. From within the walls of Koravi. "I was silenced," she said, her tone steady, rich with gravity. "But silence is not absence. Silence is waiting. And we have waited long enough." In the dome, the council froze. Arbiter Corvell stood, pale. "This is unauthorized. This." His voice drowned beneath a rising chant from the crowd outside. "Voss. Voss. Voss." In the streets, hollow banners erupted like sparks across buildings. Each showed a single word, truth. Talon removed his hood. "Broadcast is hot," Senya whispered. "You're live." He stepped onto the courthouse steps. His mother had once stood here. Tried to save what was broken. Today, he would finish what she began. "You tried to make her a criminal," he said, voice carrying through dozens of speakers. "But she was a mirror. She reflected what you didn't want to see. And now she reflects in all of us." Inside the dome, security panicked. The crowd pressed closer. From above, Vintar's drone released hundreds of data wafers, thin, glinting archives of every censored speech, sealed transcript, and classified dialogue Janira had ever translated. Proof. The Arbiter's Council fractured. Some rose in defense of her. Some fled. Some remained silent, as they always had. Arbiter Corvell activated the Purge Protocol. Outside, alarms screamed. Inside, the floor panels began to shift. "They're going to flood the square," Vintar said in Talon's ear. "Riot gas. Suppressant foam. Drones en route." Enzo's voice cut in. "I've got the gas mains. Give me the word." "Wait," Talon said. He turned to the people. "You came here for her. For justice. But don't fight like they do. Don't give them that story." He raised his arms. "Speak." And they did. Hundreds at first. Then thousands. Voices overlapping, languages blending, old tongues, forbidden chants, silent signs raised high. The purge system detected a threat level exceeding protocol. And then it shut down. The system collapsed under its own logic. When everyone speaks, no one can be silenced. Within the chamber, Janira's voice echoed once more. "To those who still believe in silence, we hear you. And we remember." Corvell tried to flee. Enzo caught him. "You're lucky," Enzo muttered, hauling him to the floor. "She taught us mercy, too." When the sun rose over Farrison, the citadel no longer bore the flags of the judiciary. It bore one word, Voss. Janira's cell opened with a hiss 3 hours later. She stepped into the light. And her son was waiting. Janira stepped into the light, and the world held its breath. She had not seen her son in 76 days. Her cuffs deactivated with a hiss. Her knees ached from the cold stone. Her voice, still hoarse, still raw, trembled not with pain, but with the weight of recognition. "Talon," she whispered. He ran to her. And in that moment, the galaxy stopped watching a rebellion. It watched a reunion. Pharazin had changed. Its plazas were covered in digital petals, streamed memorials projected into the sky, each one etched with words once censored. In place of sirens, people sang. Not in unison, not in tune. But together. Outside the citadel, makeshift forums had risen. No stage. No throne. Just circles, where people spoke, listened, translated, and cried. Janira watched them as she walked through the streets beside Talon, her hand lightly on his arm. Her name no longer whispered, but chanted with reverence. No longer feared. Claimed. She was no longer the accused. She was the beginning. The first council to convene post-revolt did not sit in chairs. They stood in a circle beneath the stars. Representatives from the border colonies, trade ships, learning orbits, and exile communes arrived with nothing but language and intent. And in the center stood Talon. "I never wanted to lead," he said. "But I wanted to listen. And that is why I'm here." He stepped back. "Let others speak." And they did. 4 hours. And in that space of shared breath, something ancient returned to the galaxy. Respect. It was not all peace. On colony after colony, warlords and holdouts tried to rise. But they found fewer listeners. Fewer silencers. Because the people had tasted voice, and would not surrender it. Some governors fell. Some vanished. Many begged for amnesty. Janira gave it. But only when they first listened to what they had tried to erase. Vintar opened an archive node on Kale 3. It streamed every word Janira had ever spoken in court, in conference, in code. Access, open. Senya founded a guild of witnesses, those who preserved memory not in files, but in retellings. In emotion. Her first project was to capture the protest chants of Pharazin, one voice at a time. Enzo returned to Zura 9. Not as a soldier, but as a guardian of its now sacred ruins. He taught self-defense. Taught restraint. Taught them that to hold power was not to use it. Janira did not take a title. She declined every request to preside, to rule, to judge. Instead, she wrote. And every morning, she spoke with her son. About nothing. About everything. About what it meant to build something new without becoming what you fought. "We don't need monuments," she said to him once. "No," Talon replied. "We need memory. And language. And story." Yes. 1 year later, on the steps of the now-renamed Hall of Echo, Talon addressed a gathering of listeners. He held no script. Wore no insignia. "My mother taught me that silence is never empty," he began. "It is potential. It is waiting. It is a question. And when she was silenced, I answered. But what matters now, is what you say next." He stepped down. And one by one, the galaxy began to speak. In the jungle ruins of Althar 9, a child read aloud from Janira's writings under stars that no longer feared surveillance. In the penal husk of Koravi, a new school opened, its walls painted in dialects that once sentenced people to silence. On the drifting freighter Emberline, a plaque hung above the comms console. Truth speaks when courage listens. And somewhere, always, two voices could be heard walking side by side through the galaxy they helped rewrite. Not as heroes. Not as rulers. As mother and son. As memory. As roar.